Biochemistry of Halloween. This is just intended to be a fun kind of topic, and we'll be glad to have questions afterwards if you have any. But we kind of have like a rhythm, so maybe you can just save your questions till the end.
So we're going to be tag teaming it together. We'll do the vampire section together, and then I'll take over on witches, and then take you home with zombies. So it's pretty exciting. You know, we just want to preface this with that these are theories that have been put out and published in peer-reviewed journals, but they are theories that we think are interesting, but we're not saying that this is the end-all, be-all of these questions. So keep that in mind.
All right, so what does biochemistry have to do with vampires, witches, and zombies? Can anybody guess? Well, if you can't, we'll tell you all about it.
So we'll start talking about the vampire. So if you think of the vampire as something that's been with us in our culture and talked about in literature since the Middle Ages, it's kind of changed form a lot. Its cultural identity has evolved, as you would say, and it's acquired many different traits. But there are certain traits that go way back into the history of vampires, and those are the traits that we're going to try to talk about tonight, because we want to peel back the layers of the True Blood and the Twilight series, all the way back to medieval vampires. So we start here. Here's a German woodcut of what we think is the first depiction of a vampire, and these were kind of just in lore at the time. They kind of look like werewolves too, and there's an interesting connection between werewolves and vampires we'll talk about later. And then as the story of vampires progressed during the Romantic period, there was you know, this feminization of vampires, and many of the vampires that showed up in art were actually women. And then, of course, after the publication of Bram Stoker's Dracula, there was several attempts to bring the character of a vampire into the forefront. And if you want an interesting case study, this Nosferatu was a movie made in 1922. Interesting case study in copyright law, because they kind of just took the character of Dracula straight out of Bram Stoker. They were sued by Bram Stoker's wife, and so she got all the money from the publicity of this movie. Interesting fact. So as we go on, you can see he's kind of not that attractive a vampire, you know, very different from the modern vampire. But as the evolution of the vampire progresses in pop culture, we see in 1931, Bela Lugosi had the kind of more handsome, mysterious vampire type character, and then went even further. And now in 2010, so this past June, I was in New York City, in Times Square, and you see the complete change of vampires into kind of regular people. They're actually good people, and so you see this change. So we go to the next slide. So, what do you think are the historical vampire traits?
Anybody?
They suck blood, okay.
Sharp teeth.
Sharp teeth, okay.
Fangs, okay.
Come out at night.
They don't come out in the daytime because
They'll melt.
Yeah, exactly.
You kill them with a steak.
You kill them with a steak. Yep. Okay. All right. I think we've covered all of the three that we're going to talk about, and the ones that we could trace back to birth.
But first we'll talk about light sensitivity, because that's one of the oldest traits. Fangs, another one that was mentioned. And someone didn't mention this. It's a really interesting one, though.
And everybody knows that, right? That vampires don't look around. Yeah. So the first person to